Mike, one more question on the offense. With the fact that Taylor and also Drew and Spencer and Keandre can all tuck the ball and run, even design quarterback runs, probably not going to major in that. I don't think that's your plan, but how can that impact defenses having to defend you now? There's another element at play there.
You know, we're not going to change much with what we do on offense, but they have the capability on a pass play of pulling it down, taking off and running. And we didn't have a lot of that with Mason, even though Mason always was more productive than what people thought, because, you know, when he run, he just didn't look good. And, you know, and I would tease him all the time, but he was productive. He'd run over somebody and get a first down, score. But these guys, it's no secret that they can pull it and take off and run, and they might score from 50 yards out. So they give us a little bit more in that area.
Every year that Joe Bob's been here, he's had an all-conference defensive lineman. Going into this year, who's somebody on the line that you think could join that group?
Well, you got a number of guys. You know, you've got Brailford's a mature guy that's been around. Cole's been around. Darian and Trey. Those guys their bodies really look good. Again, through Rob Glass and his staff, they look fantastic. So I don't know who that guy will be, but I like where we're at with those guys. That's one of the groups that we do have experience with. You know, you got Jarrell, you got Enoch, so I'm fairly comfortable with that. But if they play well enough, hopefully somebody will have a chance to earn an individual honor.
What feedback did you get from Coach Knowles, and what were your observations of the secondary? Because you're going to have to play some young guys back there. How did you feel they came through camp, and how they're doing now that they're getting into game prep?
8 and 4 missed most of camp. They both practiced yesterday and they're back, but may have been a blessing in disguise because you force the down the line guys and Kima and those guys to get in and get some quality work versus our offense and our receivers, which is not always easy. And you know, Jim is a different guy. Jim doesn't talk, and when you ask him a question, he doesn't talk. So I'm not sure what he thinks. But I let him do his job, and you know, I tell him if he needs something, let me know, and he said he will. And you know, I haven't heard from him in 3 weeks, so it seemed like it's going okay.
What can you tell us about Missouri State, Mike?
Look like they're going through some changes on offense, more of an RPO system like us. Quarterback's back. You know, he rushed for like I think 645 yards last year. They lost their 3 receivers, but they've got a guy that they're targeting some. You know, they feel pretty good about him. Defensively,
Let me ask you a question. How do you know who they're targeting?
well, I just read the paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just media reports.
Yeah, yeah, and it could be, you know, could be fake news. It's a pretty big subject nowadays.
I didn't know if you had intel on the ground in Springfield or not.
No, we haven't got that far yet. But in the old days, you would. In the real old days, but you know, supposedly he's got a guy he's thrown to, but they lost their 3 guys. They've got a couple 3 backs that they've used. Then defensively, we know they have the transfer that came in that they like. Coach Steck has, you know, been at Missouri forever and had tremendous success. So I think he's a really good motivator, and he's a smart football coach, and so that's what we know about him. When I started watching some tape on them, you know, they scored, I think, 47 points against Missouri last year, and that just happened to be the first game I watched. I thought, well, this is not good. But I'm sure he'll get him ready to play. But that's what I know about him.
Mike, I know Bill Clay put out a tweet about the new rule limiting the amount of headsets, and I guess the ones in the booth have to be 10 years, within 10 years of graduation. How much will that affect the operation here, just the new headset?
It won't affect us much. I think he's moving in the direction of a lot of these analysts across the country are guys that are semi-retired that don't want to be at home, and this is a great opportunity for them to be a part of the team and still involved. And essentially that rule eliminates them from being in the box. And we've always had those guys in the box. So the new rule says you can't do that. And I think that his reference was just because he's been 140 years removed from college doesn't mean he shouldn't be able to be in the box. And that's what he's referring to.
What is Gary Gibbs' level of involvement going to be with you guys?
He'll be with us, well, he was here yesterday, and he's been here several days, and then he'll start, you know, on what I would call a full-time schedule next week.
Is he going to be an analyst, or is it a different type of?
Same concept, sure. Provide knowledge, information, thoughts. He's been to a couple practices or three, and Dave Rader, I invited Dave Rader over here, and Dave Rader came over a couple days ago, and I mentioned to him the same thing I did to Coach Gibbs, is you know, if you see something out here that you think is not good, I need to know. You guys are smart guys, very cerebral, low key, low ego. So I think it's a great reference point for us and for our defensive staff.
How did the deal with Gary come about, Mike?
How did what?
How did it come about with Gary? How did that happen?
Well, we had had communication, and I don't know his personal situation other than he's what I would call semi-retired, but then maybe not wanting to be retired, and invited him to come up to practice and come around and watch, and just like I said, if you see something, let me know and whatever. And then just one thing led to another, and said, hey, you know, if you want to come up here and work during the week and be a part of this, we'd love to have you. And it just ended up working out that way, and so he's going to help us out, and I think he'll be a great addition to our staff.
You know, later, state legislature, you've gotten a little more politically active. You gonna run for the state house?
Lot of ghosts in the closet, Barry, for me. Nowadays, I don't know if I even make it out of the first ticket. But you know, and Coach Rader was, you know, it's interesting, he and I were talking. You guys that watched him, you know, they were doing what people do on offense now 30 years ago. They just don't get the credit for it. But the no huddle, throw the ball down the field concept, they weren't RPOing, but their thought process was probably 20 years ahead of its time. So he enjoyed watching practice the other day because we move really fast now, and you know, I think I saw kind of a gleam in his eye. He liked that.
Hey, last couple questions for Coach. We're not gonna do like a walk-off because we got the players here waiting for you, so if you have anything, now's the time. Mike, do you think you guys found a combo you like in LD and Landon on kick returns? Do you think it's...
We have LD, Chuba, Landon, and JD. And then on punts, we have Kima, Stoner, and McCleskey, I think. I don't know what Gavin put on here. Sometimes he screws it up. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it has Wallace on punch, too.
Yeah. So that's who we have, and we'll find out. We haven't been very exciting on returns in the last few years. So hopefully we can generate a little firepower. It'll be based on the new rules, so I'm not sure how all that's going to pan. I don't know how people are going to play. A lot of schools may flop the ball up in the air and just say, hey, take it on the 25. So I don't know. We'll see.
Mike, same question asked about Maryland, asked about Ohio State. Different kind of scandal. Does that make you take stock, go back with your coaches and say, here's what you gotta do, and if you do this, you're gone, or can't go here, can't do this, that kind of thing?
It's interesting. 2 days before that happened, we had the discussion in our staff room. And I don't have any evidence to bring to the table to prove that, but we have a number of guys in our staff room. I guess you could run them down and ask them. But we had the same discussion. And in my position, you know, all that comes from the top. Essentially, Barry, Title IX controls everybody on this campus. They're I don't know, artists. I think they have more control than he does, and I know they do more than me. So anything that takes place, we report it to them, and I don't even ask a question before they even get it all out of their mouth. I say you just need to take it to Title IX. I'm out of it. That way, I'm not involved in any at all. So, you know, it's an unfortunate situation. I don't know. I didn't see a lot of it. I know that there was a lot of talk going on. I don't know what happened up there, but that's what happens here. We just bypass it, it goes right on up the ladder, and then they come and tell me what to do.
When you talk about wanting to get Justice Hill 15 carries a game, do you, how do you handle the strategy of figuring out which of those other three, because you've got so many guys behind him, how you use them and when you use them and that sort of thing?
I'm not sure that they have that laid out, other than we think we have 3 guys that can play in there anytime and be very effective. Most of us in this room would agree that we could put JD in and feel pretty good. He's proven that to us yet. He's been on the driving range and he's teed off and hit the ball down the middle. The other 2 guys, LD's played some, but hadn't been a lot when the chips were down. And then Chuba's new. All we know is what we see in practice. So I haven't asked Waz or Mike directly how you plan on doing that, but in just watching what's transpired over the last month, I'm going to guess that JD gets his work, and then the other 2 guys are going to be coming in, and that's why they're involved in a lot of special teams and return game. They need touches. Knock on wood, if we stay healthy, there's not enough footballs to go around for those guys. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're not where we think we are in the running game, but I don't think there'll be enough footballs to go around.
So that's a lot of Yursich and Wozniak communicating to determine who's going on the
They
field.
should have all that done now, because when you are putting through, or when you're installing a game plan, those reps have to be done in practice prior to, based on if we think this guy's getting 70% of the carries, he needs to be in 70% of the reps, and if he's 40, he's 40. You don't want to get a guy 70% of the work and only get 10% in the game. It's kind of poor business, so that should take place now. I'm just giving you what I see in practice.
Do you have a feeling on when Signer might be back? I know you're going with Pocket.
He should be, I think he was working out yesterday or moving around or whatever, so we don't have any reason to punt him in the first game. I'm going to guess that a week from now he'll be kind of back in the flow, but I'm sure he'll update you on his social media. Y'all will know before me, just like Kaufman. So I didn't know about Kaufman until they went down and they said, okay, we're going to fix it, and then I guess y'all knew before I did. So, but I'm sure Sino will let you know. Good.
Is that frustrating for McCaughlin to see that with the
Yeah,
way he's developing?
anytime a guy gets hurt, he was doing well, you know, and he had set a year and matured and grown up, and then to see that, a kind of a weird deal, you know, almost a non-contact injury, which we see a lot nowadays with kids all across the country. But, you know, life's that way sometimes, you know, you just got to get up and go and come back. He's going to get his, you know, he'll get his number of years, and you know, you got to play the hand you've been dealt. You can't fold, not in life. You can in cards, but not in life, and he'll be fine. You know, he's just got to bounce back and get going, and it should make him stronger.
Thanks, guys.
Good?